Okay, part 2 of talking to your parents about planning for incapacity and death, and giving you guys some ideas of things that you need to know, because we do need to have a good solid estate plan that would include a will or a trust, a durable power of attorney, a designation of healthcare surrogate, a living will to help with end-of-life decision-making, and then a pre-need consent against exploitation, and maybe a pay-on-death deed, so that real property can pass on death. Also, we want to know what all the assets are. We want to know that they're designated to pass on death, even if you have a couple. So if you have 2 parents that are alive and they have both names on the account, we want to make sure there's pay-on-death beneficiaries on any accounts, including retirement assets. So contingent beneficiaries on retirement assets. I know I'm talking fast, but I'm just going to try and hit all the highlights. And life insurance, all these assets that potentially we can avoid going through probate by having named beneficiaries on death, and then also naming contingent beneficiaries in case the couple dies together or they forget to retitle after death of the first spouse. Okay, some other things that I would encourage you to learn about with your parents, and that is something that my stepmom does for us every year. We just got this recently, and that is an asset list. Where are all the assets? Who are your financial advisors or your CPA? Anyone who is your attorney. All of those people should be known to you as the children, and whoever is designated as the primary manager if they can't manage their own stuff. And just go through a what-if scenario. Where do we go to find these documents? Where do you have your bank statements? Where can we find passwords to online accounts if you have some assets that are only online? Who are your primary bankers at these places where you have your monies? All that should be put in like a document, and obviously it needs to be very securely maintained because it has a lot of private information, but I like it to be updated every year. I like to have a family meeting, like when we're together at Christmas, where we talk about, healthcare issues, and where we talk about, what if, my stepmom can't make decisions? What if my dad can't make decisions? And we just all get on the same page and talk about these issues and spot issues. Like, is there going to be debate between family members about end-of-life decision-making? Those things can be managed in advance by having your parents talk about it and what they want, because they get to make those decisions, not us, right? So always we want to hear from them to know what they want when these things happen. So those are some primary issues. The other thing that I would highly recommend, and I'm not sponsored by this app, and I'm sure there's other apps that are similar to it, but I love the Careful app, and it's Careful with 2 L's. That app allows you to park assets, like account information in the assets. And then what happens is they have an algorithm. So if a bill gets paid twice, if a bill isn't paid, if a check is being sent to a nefarious recipient, an alert goes out to the trusted contacts listed on the app. They can't lock the assets down. They have no power, but they're notified that they might want to contact the parents or whoever, and just check in and say, like, what's going on with this payment to this place in North Africa? That's and I love it because it can be the first flare that goes up when exploitation is about to happen big time. So yeah, I love the Careful app, or some other type of app that really just is a monitor. And that way your parents can feel like, look, we're still independent, but if we start to give our money away, our kids are going to know about it. So those are just some ideas for things that you guys can do once they decide to engage you. And I'll tell you from the estate planning side, I love it when family's involved. I try and bring them in very early on. Now I want to make sure there's no undue influence and that they're not directing their parents, which is why I always, make sure we meet with the parents separately. But then I like them to know what the estate plan is and keep them in the loop as much as possible. Okay, that's it for today.